My name's Amelia Curran. I'm from St. John's, Newfoundland.
Lenny George Gallant. I'm from Rustico, Prince Edward Island.
Where I grew up is not really a town. It's more like a road.
David Miles. I live in Halifax these days.
I'm George Canyon. I'm originally from Pictou County, Nova Scotia. Well, the ECMAs have always been a celebration of the cultural differences of music in Canada. Growing up in the East Coast, I grew up on country music, I grew up on rock music, I grew up on Celtic music, folk music. It was just a big mishmash of music, and ECMAs celebrate that. Everybody just gets together.
People ask me why there's so much music here, and I don't really have an answer for it other than that it's part of the fabric of the culture here. It's just live music.
There's a tradition of playing music with the family or on the back porch. So a lot of us sort of gravitate towards that and then try and push the boundaries as a way to, to see other parts of the country and get out of this little area that, is the Maritimes.
It's amazing to be at an East Coast kitchen party and watch people pass the fiddle around, and then the fiddle player goes to the piano, and the piano player goes to the guitar, and then the guitar player goes to the boron. And then they do that again and again throughout the room, and you're just like, how do you guys know all these instruments? How'd you all get so good?
When I was a kid, that was like pre-Pong. Pong is like beep, beep, beep. Woo, this is the best game ever. There wasn't as many external influences, and there was a lot more time to really learn your guitar or your fiddle. You could really sit down with it and practice.
Cape Breton is one of those places where if you say, Mom, Dad, I'm gonna be a musician, they're like, that's great, congratulations on that idea. One of the few places where it's super respected to go out and be an artist and be a musician. You're carrying on a cultural thing.
Probably the biggest misconception about East Coast music is that it's all fiddle music. A lot of the tourism commercials have, fiddlers and stuff in them, and certainly is something that draws people because fiddle music brings people into kitchens and people understand it as a community kind of thing.
If that's what keeps people interested in the area, and then they come and they go, whoa, I had a misconception that that's all that happened here, but now I've discovered acts, like me, then that's awesome,
The one genre that makes us unique is that sort of Celtic-y East Coast sound.
It's the most popular music that we've made for many hundreds of years. It's not to say that the great traditional music still isn't there. It is still there, and it is still really good. And now there's more.
I think even the East Coast perception of what we were for a long time was just the fiddle music and that part of our culture.
The one thing that I find is they kind of go, oh, you're from Nova Scotia, it's all fiddle music. Like, no, it's not all fiddle music, but guarantee it probably some of the best fiddlers in the world come from the Maritimes.
It's been interesting because as I've gotten more involved in the business and come to these conferences, I've actually started to love Celtic fiddle music. And I didn't expect that to happen.
There's always been a strong Celtic presence in this region, but there's always been blues, jazz, everything here. It's amazing,
A really great blues scene. I mean, Dutch Mason and Matt Minglewood, those guys have really blazed the trail there for us. Even her folk scene as far as like Anne Murray or Rita McNeil, that kind of stuff. I mean, the music's always been here. I guess now it's just getting put out to people more than it was.
One of the big things I get is, well, you're in country music. Well, how did you get into country music being from Nova Scotia? And that's where I like to say, A half hour from where I was born and raised, Hank Snow was born and raised.
You could literally just go from place to place to place to place and get in every kind of music you could possibly imagine in one night. All in just like this little kind of corner, like.
What's up, Charlton? How y'all feeling out there? Make some noise!
I saw a good rap band last night, you know. I don't think people think of rap when they think of the East Coast, but, you know, that was every different kind of style is going on down here.
I threw my hoodie on and said I'm out for treats. Throw your hands in the sky and wave them from side to side. And if you ready to rock with ghetto socks, say yeah. Say yeah. Say yeah. All right, y'all alive.
It's one big party.
It's really fantastic to see the young guys coming up and doing so well and getting a lot of notice.
Boo, please, I'm begging for poutine. Hot chicken wings with the ranch, no blue cheese. Who's these rocket track, oh so gooey? Socks and Joe Run. Now give me your
Gentlemen, rhymes blue cheese with poutine. There's everything, you know?
Say ice cream. Say poutine. I love it. I need it. Tasty. Peace. Thanks a lot, y'all. Yeah.
Dave Gunning, I'm from Pictou County, Nova Scotia.
My name is Tawny Kennedy. I was born in St. John's, Newfoundland.
I'm Colin, and this is John Angus. We play in a band from Antigonish, Nova Scotia, called The Trues.
Hope and ruin, living the dream. What we're doing, it's not what it seems.
You got to thank Rob Cohn for coming up with the whole idea of the East Coast Music Awards way back when. At that point in time, it seemed that if you wanted to seriously consider a career in music, you had to either move to Toronto or New York.
We always wanted to make an album in New Brunswick, and we never could because we didn't have the infrastructure, for one. We didn't have the technology, for two, and we didn't have the talent. Now we have all three.
Not even that. We didn't even have the clout enough to really push and say, we can do this here in our own province.
Hope and ruin, gone too soon. Hope and ruin, me and you.
The most exciting thing about the ECMAs is getting to see everybody, you know, that we see once a year, you know.
There are very good friends of mine who I only get to see this one time of year.
There's my brother Dave Gunning. I haven't got to see Dave in a while. This morning I ran into Ashley McIsaac in the elevator. I haven't seen Ashley in gosh, probably a couple of years. It's like a big visit, getting all the family all back together.
Walking down the street today, I just kept running into people and I haven't seen them, you know, you see them out on tours and stuff, but it's nice to see them at home.
Hope and ruin, gone too soon. Hope and ruin, me and you, and it's every night.
It's really cool to finally meet that person that you've been talking to for the last year and a half through Facebook, through emails, and actually be able to say hello in person.
It's like a huge family reunion for a lot of us. You know, it's a chance to really build on the community. I find in the East Coast, more than any place else I've been, that the music community is an actual community. You know, we support each other.
It's been pretty nice the past few days, just to have younger people say that they like some of my work.
I get motivation from seeing someone else perform and going to a good show and feeling their good vibes and being like, oh, well, they're doing it, and you know, if we stick together, we can all do it together.
I've played in some big towns, and I've had guys go, I didn't know any good bands came from Moncton, to my face. And I went, well, Yes.
Everywhere you go, someone's playing awesome music. Like last night, I was at the bar at the hotel, and there was a lady playing the piano, and it was just incredible. She was so good that everybody in the bar was just drawing over to the piano, which is the real magic of music. It had nothing to do with anything besides the fact that she was making something that everybody was feeling, you know, and that's the beautiful thing.
Sometimes it's a delight to just get on stage and play music for an audience and go, oh yeah, I like playing music, you know?
You need a break from the noise in the middle of the night. You need a break from all those boys who just seem to want to fight. You need
Simply by just enjoying the camaraderie of other musicians, you come away with something from this conference, and it's worth it.
The showcases really are great to play for the public, but there's a whole other aspect to it, which is that the ECMAs as an association bring in delegates from all over the world. And as a musician, it gives you an opportunity to play to people that otherwise you wouldn't have a chance to play to. You know, it's not every day that you can organize to have a festival buyer from Australia and an agent from England and someone who runs a festival in the southern states all in the same room at the same time to watch you do your thing. It's a pretty amazing opportunity that they kind of provide for the artists of the East Coast.
I do this everywhere, and I probably teach 20 workshops in a year around the world. When I go see the shows, I don't know how to explain this, and you may think I'm arrogant, but they're just okay.
The whole idea of the East Coast Music Awards was to bring the world of music business to the East Coast and show the industry that, you know, there is a lot of great music here in various styles.
Every one of you can raise your show up at least a notch or two. Can't promise you'll make millions, but I can promise you will get more gigs, sell way more merch. You can start developing a career just between being great online and great live.
There's actually 700 scheduled meetings between international delegates and musicians.
People from all over the world, Germany, Australia are two key ones we're looking at, trying to hook up some tours over there, so it's a great time to check out music, and people know that, so they go to the shows.
I was very fortunate to get record deals through the East Coast Music Awards back in maybe '95. Did a showcase in the Delta Ballroom in St. John's, Newfoundland. And it created such a buzz, that show, that before the weekend was out, I had offers from every major record label.
The musical industry now understands that there is a lot of cool music on the East Coast of Canada, and it's worthwhile taking a look at. We don't have anything to prove anymore. We've already done that.
Hello, it's me, the mistress. Is there anybody home? 'Cause the last place I should be is sitting here alone.
So one thing you got to keep completely at the foreground of anything you do in this industry. Don't do this for the money. Don't do this for the fame. Don't be a flash in the pan, you know, because a flash in the pan eventually is burnt out and the pan gets cleaned and there's another flash. You do this because it's in your heart. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up for disaster.
Is it better to be grounded? Is it better to be free? Am I better off without you? Am I happier alone?
If I was to have never made it, I would still play music. I'd still write songs. It's something that's ingrained in me. It's not something that I went, you know, today I think I'll wake up and become a professional, successful musician. That doesn't happen.
Last night for me felt like one of the first times I had ever sang anything here. I started with the Ode to Newfoundland. It was very dark. And I was very nervous, more nervous than probably doing the award shows. And I came out and I turned the lights off on the stage and I started stomping my foot and I started singing the Ode to Newfoundland. And Ron Hines came to my show, who I think is one of the most incredible songwriters that we will ever know. I could hear him singing along. When sun rays crown thy pine-clad hills and summer spreads her hand, when sylvan voices tune thy rills, we love thee, smiling land. To play songs, Newfoundland songs, at the ECMAs was like, wow, I can't believe of everything I've done in almost 20 years I've been coming, that tonight it's like, wow, I'm home.
It's just a party. And on Monday, we're all going to be really tired, and we're going to have aged a little, quickly for only 4 days. Things are gonna be okay. Good luck.
After being here for 5 days, I get to go home and get some sleep.
The prayer we raise to heaven above, God guard the newfound land.
Slow coaster from Cape Breton Island, Nova Scotia, Canada.
Jimmy Rankin, and I'm originally from Cape Breton Island in Nova Scotia.
My name's Ashton McIsaac. I'm from a small village in Cape Breton Island called Craignish.
Haywire from Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island.
The road bends long like mother's arms, reaching for these 4 black tires. Through the night, our knuckles tight, knock off miles and yellow lines.
The musicians who've come before me showed me that it was possible. You could be from a tiny place and go to bigger places and still be okay and come home and have lots of support.
I see, you know, kids starting out, and they have the same, you know, they have that gleam in their eye, and they have that dream. They look at myself and my siblings as sort of the elder statespeople of the business. It was tough then to break it in. You know, you just couldn't go out and, oh, here I am. It was tough to get a record deal. It was tough to get your music out there. But ECMAs were instrumental in bringing labels down from Toronto, because the whole music business was based out of there at the time.
The road comes round, it's a curving crown, and our tired temples try and wear it proud, 'cause you get away.
Our first national television appearance was on the East Coast Music Awards in 2004. We got a lot of people who knew us from that broadcast who got into the band, so it was really cool to get that exposure.
My first ECMA ever was actually here in Charlottetown, I guess 5 or 6 years ago. And it was me wandering around aimlessly without a hotel room, and I had a record that had just come out and I hadn't really played publicly, and it was a really interesting experience. I remember being completely overwhelmed. And now each year as I go back, I get to know more people and feel more and more comfortable.
When the night comes on and I drive into you like I'm driven to do.
There's very few rock acts that have come out of the Atlantic Canada that we kind of broke the mold, I think, for that kind of stuff.
When we first started, it was practice in your basement, get as good as you can, and get a gig and show everybody what you can do.
We always just thought everyone was going to realize that these guys are 4 guys in PEI, they shouldn't be here. You know, that's what we always thought, you know. So we walked on stage, we were generally freaked out, you know. So
Montreal Forum.
Montreal Forum, and that was
Yes.
like, to walk out, it's like, you know.
Whenever we regroup to do a Haywire gig or show, you know, we ask Paul, are you available on this date to do a gig or something? He goes, I'm always there. And Haywire, I'm there. And, you know, it's pretty cool because we're like brothers and we get along.
After all these years, people are blown away. It's like, you have all original 5 guys? They're just like, nobody has all original 5 guys, right?
We wouldn't be sitting here right now if it wasn't for Rita McNeil. You know, if it wasn't for the Rankins, if it wasn't for John Allen Cameron, this would not be happening at all. They blazed the trail for East Coast music. I mean, you're talking about a tiny island with barely anybody on it, with more gold and platinum records than, you know, a major portion of Los Angeles. You know, there's people that are living in a cottage in the woods with diamond albums on their walls, you know? And you can go down and just knock on their door and be like, how'd you get them there gold records, man?
Come on in for tea and I'll tell you the story, what?
You got your secrets, you got secrets. Well, I'll tell you anything you wanna know. Stay up all
I went to see Slow Coaster, and I was a little giddy, I gotta say. Just unbelievably joyful. And there's only 3 people on stage. I can't believe it. And there were bits of like Old in Excess. And I went, that could be huge anywhere.
In the Maritimes, we grew up that there's space enough for everybody and that everybody is there for each other, even if you don't know each other.
You got your problems, I bet you got some problems. Too many boys on the trampoline. My lemonade girl, da 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 da. Fresh squeeze in the left and you're dead wrong.
Wherever we went, we always made no bones about the fact that we were from here, you know, and very proud of it, and always tried to represent our roots and music here, and our stories and our culture.
I think that we have a really good world reputation for music, and wherever I go, I try and give us an even better one whenever I can, for sure.
No matter where we go, we always say we're from Antigonish, Nova Scotia, so we're proud of being from the Maritimes.
You know, for me, it's still invigorating after all these years. And obviously, it has changed in some ways. It's recreated, reinvented. But at the end of the day, more than anything, it's about keeping music alive and keeping East Coast music alive.
I feel your pain like you're punching the nose. We hang out in the darkest of discos.
That's what it's about.
I'd tell the world to stop spinning round. I'd tell the stars to keep shining in the sun, to stay down. 'Cause a night like this hasn't come around in so long. Then I turn you on. 'Cause I've been away, and I've got so much that I'd like to say, but I'm